Welcome to Stree Shakti series at the Coffee Conversation Show, powered by the Emerging India Forum, TIF, and a tech partner, Prime Infotech Solution. Theme is the power of games in mental wellness. We have with us Mital Salia, founder and game therapist, Khel Khel Mein, known for her innovative approach to mental wellness and brain fitness through games. Mithal is not only a passionate educator but also a trailblazer in experiential learning. From designing impactful programs to embracing her philosophy as an unschooler mom, Mithal's journey is filled with creativity, resilience, and inspiration. Join us as we dive into a story, explore the transformative power of play, and uncover the secret behind her incredible success. So let's get ready to play, laugh, and learn. So, welcome, Metal, to today's coffee conversation.
Thank you, Amir.
Yeah, so let me explain the flow and the format. There are not only two rounds, but there is a surprise rapid fire round for which you have to be witty, funny, and quick. And you'll get this
Okay.
niche marketing, which will be autographed and sent to you. So,
Wow.
yeah, let's begin. So, friends, I'm Lion Amir Virani, host at Coffee Conversation and a legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution. Author of 15 books. We help law firms, corporate legal, startups, and SMEs with world class technology, software licensing, and tech training solutions. So, my first question to you, Mithal. How did your journey in using games for mental wellness and brain fitness begin? And what inspired to start Khel Khel Mein?
Okay, so I was mainly into the education sector. I was working with the top educational companies of the country like Kidzi, Educomp, Nandi Foundation, and all of these. And of course, Z Education. So towards these last and the second last job, I had about 300, 350 schools under me. And I started realizing that, people make such grammatical errors even after 15 years exposure to English. And I thought something is missing in the education system. Why isn't learning happening when you're exposed to a language for 15 years, whereas you're very fluent with the mother tongue? And that's when I started getting more serious about fun. And I started bringing in, I created a course on English creative writing and learning English in a very, very unconventional manner. But one thing that I had ensured is there is 30 minutes of game time in every class. So that's how the journey began for using games in the learning pedagogy. But when I talk of mental wellness and brain fitness, it just so happened that in my community, I was a part of the sports committee and we were thinking, wow, what to bring in, how can we bring in something meaningful? Already being a game therapist, I had full conviction that games work wonderful. Let me try something with adults, and I started going little deeper researching, and I realized that some of the best neurologists of the world use games to heal their patients. I started going deeper, and I realized, oh, a lot of things can be taught in terms of mental wellness, in terms of brain fitness. So that's how I did my first brain fitness workshop a couple of months before the lockdown. And that's where the whole passion started.
Interesting. Okay. So, what's the story behind naming your startup Khel Khel Mein?
Uh, Initially, I had named my company as Eminent Minds. Now, what happened was most people would say Mithal Miska class or, Mithal Miska. So nobody remembered Eminent Minds. And I was like, the name should be such that people immediately, connect to. So in certain workshops, we had started using the term Khel Khel Mein. And then we realized that this just clicks. Plus, it absolutely follows my philosophy कि life में जो भी करना है we can do everything khel khel mein. If I want to improve on my agility, if I want to improve on my logic, everything can be done through play. So I thought anything that I come up in future, it has to be with the games, and khel khel mein would be the best name to give to the company. And people have really connected well. People immediately, even if once they have encountered, and the moment we say khel khel mein, people connect immediately.
Interesting. Okay. So, Mithal, what were the key challenges you faced transitioning from corporate roles to being a founder, and how did you overcome them?
Uh, so it's very different, when you're doing a job and you're in the corporate role. I've really grown very fast in my corporate jobs, and I came to a good, happy salary. And when you drop a job and you start something on your own, the biggest struggle is the finance. So that was one thing. But at that time, I was just looking at, building up something. But over the years, I realized that it's very, managing a team in corporate is much easier. When you have to pay, when you're taking salary, it's fun. When you have to start paying. So bringing in a team was a very big challenge that I faced. I always felt that will I be able to earn so much if I'm committing to somebody for, a job or having a team member. That was one challenge. Second challenge, I being a complete academic person and a creative person, operations and execution is a very big challenge. And I always thought that finance nahi handle karna, execution nahi handle karna, let people do it. But you keep falling and you realize that no, you can't give away things. Being an entrepreneur, you have to take a dip into everything. Although you can start setting people later on, but first you have to take a dip. So every uncomfortable area I have had to visit, and finance is something I felt I never had a wiring for it, managing accounts and everything. But I think over the time I've started picking up on everything as an entrepreneur. And now, of course, I am setting up processes by which, I can equip my team members to start handling certain roles which I really don't want to do a lot.
Wow, beautiful. So, Mithil, how do you conceptualize and design games that cater specifically to mental wellness and life skills?
Uh, I have authored 3 books over the last 4 years. So during the lockdown, I started with my first book, which is Game Your Mind, and I started going very deep into game therapy. I started really going deep down into the psychological parameters and the neurological parameters. So over the time, it so happened that any game that I play, I would understand, okay, which part of brain is getting stimulated, which hormones are getting stimulated, and what behavioral changes certain games can lead to. So now, when I know the objectives, I am able to align certain games or activities to those objectives. I actually identified 14 different thinking skills for, that can be aligned. So, when I have to make you play a game that's logical, it's different than a strategy. And that is different from a game that needs quick thinking or agility or dexterity. At the same time, if I'm looking at innovation or creative thinking, it'll be a completely different game. So now, having got exposed to a huge range of things, when I curate, I ensure that these different life skills are taken care of, or what particular function a game is serving. And that comes into that entire creation of the curriculum.
Wow. So, Mithal, in your introduction, I read about an unschooler mom. So,
Yeah.
what is the meaning of an unschooler mom, and how does the philosophy of learning influence the work you do in experiential education?
So this has been the most interesting part of my life as well as my family life. It was around 2016-17 when I was doing my diploma, like a 9 month diploma in experiential education and practices. So towards the last 2 months, I decided that, oh, this is experiential learning. And having worked in the education sector through and through, because in my second last job, I had 350 schools under me. And my last job was with BMC schools. I had 64 schools. I had a good dip into the education system. And that is when I decided, I told my son, he was in 8th standard, and I said, no more school. It came across as a shock to him, of course. So he was like, no, I want to continue. And when I say unschooling, it's not homeschooling. I had decided no home tuitions, no studying at all. It was all about experiencing life outside, and we had no agenda. We had no timetable decided when we decided to drop school. And it was the most important years that parents consider, the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. So I said, these 4 years, you're not going to go to any formal education. Uh, this thing. And the only thing that I put up with him was, what is it that you're learning in school that you can apply in your life? If you're learning algebra, geometry, physics, chemistry, where are you applying it? And frankly, he had no answer. So I said, just leave it. And that's how the journey began. And the whole idea was, experiencing thing. And it was about giving fuel to the curiosity and the experiences, or experimenting. So this was all about experimenting because it was a huge step. Everyone was against us. But I had decided that, what do you like? Let's go into that field and you just go ahead. And this is what I can also connect with my work, because games is all about experiences and experimenting. You try to solve a challenge, you play it in a certain way, you don't get result, you play it again, you try playing it the third time, so you keep experimenting until you get your final result. And that whole process of trying to reach the solution of a puzzle is the very root to anything in life or any learning in life, because you are experiencing things and you are getting a learning out of your own experimenting. So that was the
Wow.
whole idea. Yeah.
Okay. From the different games which you have developed, which one is the most favorite and memorable, and why?
So I haven't really developed many games. I'm more into curating. I have about 500 games at my place, and everything from a hand puzzle to a single player game, two player, four player, to multiple player games, and to the most complex board games. I have two, three favorites. I love playing games that have logical thinking, that have visual logic. I love solving these hand puzzles that can keep me engaged for hours. And when it comes to board games, it is, I think, Splendor that comes on the top favorite of mine.
Wow. So when a client, like a corporate, comes to you, or an individual, or for association groups come to you, so what are the process steps you do with them to decide on which type of games to consider and what objectives or key learnings to be derived from?
So, when a client comes, the initial talk is about actually understanding what problems they have, or why do they want to have a session. And very often, they will use certain terms which, typically are the HR terms. But I think being a psychologist gives me that extra edge to actually get into the things that are not being said, or, getting through a lot of other things. So the first thing is, I try to take a SWOT of the employees, or take in what are the strengths, weaknesses, or what are the issues people are facing. And along with the objectives that they are giving, I also always have certain agenda of mine. For example, problem solving or critical thinking is something that I put irrespective. Even if it is birthday parties and we are doing a treasure hunt for the party, I ensure to put some part of critical thinking. I try to put things related to out of box thinking. And of course, I always keep it in the mind that there has to be a lot of fun and experience. There has to be a lot of enjoyment that a person faces, because when the happiness is triggered, the dopamine is triggered, that stimulates learning in the brain. And the whole idea is that when you're playing, khel khel mein, you're learning as well. So, whatever games I align to the objectives, but there has to be these certain important elements that I always add on to any program that I've curated.
Wow, beautiful. Okay. Mithil, can you share a transformative success story from Khel Khel Mein that highlights the impact of games?
Sure. There have been multiple. transformative stories, especially with the children as well when we were running the class. But since we are talking of mental wellness, I would like to talk about a case where I received a call from one of the clients. So during the lockdown, I was just running these WhatsApp groups where I was educating people on how, which games they can buy and which game can be helpful to them for different functions. So from that time itself, there was this client who used to off and on buy games, and she just gave me a call one day that in last few months I have been facing certain depressive. She talked of certain symptoms which were like the onset of depression. She also talked of losing on to her memory to a point. She talked of her alertness getting really deteriorated and all of that. So I recommended certain games which I give in my brain fitness programs also. I said, buy these, and the games are not even expensive, but I just recommended her that play some of these games and how on a periodic basis. And certain games were just 10-15 minute play on a daily basis. And thankfully, she actually did that. She met me a few months later in one of my board game sessions at Mulund, and that's when she gave this testimonial in front of the crowd that in just 1.5 month of she started playing the games, she could see a transformative change in her behavior, in her happiness quotient, in also her memory and alertness. She said everything had started, falling in place. So I think that was something I was very happy to hear about.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's continue conversation. So you're a game therapist. How is this role evolving in today's fast-paced world? And if someone wants to become a game therapist, uh, so what are uh, how does a person become a game therapist? Because this involves being a healing process, a therapy part, and the game part, choosing the right set of games. So that involves being an educator. So there are two roles being played side by side.
Right. So, first, let me tell you how I put this term game therapist, and this is my favorite statement that I use everywhere. Just like doctors prescribe games, I prescribe medicines. And whenever people, I mean, if parents come to me and say, "मेरे बच्चे में focus नहीं है, my child is not able to concentrate, or my child is not able to think, or improve in language or whatever," I prescribe games. Play this game, it will improve. When people come with depression, I give that thing that okay, if this is the issue, play this game. So it's like a prescription that I try giving, and that is how I had coined this term game therapy. This There is no course per se in game therapy as yet, but yes, if somebody wants to become a game therapist, I think it has to be someone who really has a very good knowledge in terms of psychology and cognitive psychology. So, somebody who is already in the mental health space and can start playing on games, on different games, and start connecting things to the different roles. That's where the whole journey will begin. It's a long journey, but yes, that's how, when I started really going deep into understanding the brain, into understanding the behavioral parameters, and I have experimented because we used to run classes. We have actually tried playing a lot of games with a different set of people, trying to bring in certain results. That is what has given us the conclusions, or that is what has given me a lot of matter related to my books as well. So that is how it is. And when I talk of game therapy in this fast-paced world, I think it's no longer going to be a luxury or a fun part. It's going to very soon become a necessity because the mental health space by itself is going to need a huge demand. And these days people are trying to get into ways and methods other than medicines to keep them healthier or to keep them happier. So people are going on to art therapy, to music therapy, to dance therapy. The same way game therapy is something that people will start using on a daily basis.
Yeah, yes. So I've been part of Asif Ibrahim's Learners Conclave game Storm participated a couple of times, and I'm so learn about the power of games. So he is
Wow.
a pioneer, one of a leading educator from learning and
Right.
development, uh, training the trainers
Yes.
and L&D community for using the power of games.
Yes.
Dr. Shankar Vishwanath, there's so many people have learned from them. So now my
Wow.
next question is related to that only. How do you stay updated and innovate in the ever-changing landscape of experiential education, which involves games?
So there are three parameters to staying updated. One is I love constant research. I mean, even in my free times, I can just be reading different researches or the upcoming trends. So I try to constantly read and research in my domain what's happening, what's not happening, including TED Talks, including watching neurologists and people. The second part is upgrading myself by attending workshops or seminars. So, this is something, there are these experiential learning festivals that keep happening. There are these very good experiential educators or different speakers from the different domains that come. And I try attending the workshops, not just in Mumbai, even if it's in Pune, Bangalore. I have traveled just to attend that 1 2 day workshops, which gives me more details about my work. Also, I've constantly been educating myself. So I've done a clinical hypnotherapy, all levels. I've done my neuro linguistic programming. I've done diploma in training and development. So I try to upgrade myself in terms of my education as well. And the third parameter is now I have started using digital media to a big level, and I have also started researching on AI and how the entire AI can be incorporated into my treasure hunts. So I'm trying to bring in, we started bringing in the digital clue format right during the lockdowns. Initially, it was just physical treasure hunts. Then we brought in these digital clues where they are password protected and people need to crack, and they can then move on to the next clue. This happened during the lockdown itself in 2021 or so. But now I'm also trying to bring in what artificial intelligence, different apps, or what are the new things that are coming in. So this is something that I've started researching a few months back, and very soon I think I will have the AI incorporated in my game sessions.
Beautiful. That's interesting to look forward. So, Mithal, my last question for your professional journey round. What's your vision for next 5 years for Khel Khel Mein?
um, okay, so for Khel Khel Mein, one thing is the treasure hunts. I really want to get, as said in the Acres of Diamond, that go as deep as you can. That is where I've started. I've started creating treasure hunts only for the investment advisors, started creating treasure hunts only for sustainability or teaching the ESG, parameters. I've started going deeper into certain specific learning goals and getting deeper. So I think in next 4 or 5 years, I want Khel Khel Mein to be that name where people want some kind of training and they would say, okay, Khel Khel Mein will have a treasure hunt or a quest related to this, and let's teach this parameter through the treasure hunt. That's one thing. Second thing is in the space of brain fitness and mental wellness. I definitely want to go much deeper because, especially when it comes to brain, there have been multiple checkpoints that when we test ourselves, we will check our BP, we will check our cholesterol level, we'll do a lipid profile test, we will do blood test, diabetes, all the tests we will do. But we never go to a neurologist and say, okay, check if my brain is all right or not. And unfortunately, the dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer, these are the brain diseases that have started, setting in, which we were not hearing 10 years back. But today, at least, we've been hearing from a lot of people. So, in terms of the preventive measures for the brain, and unfortunately, again, these are the illnesses which don't have any medicines. So my whole aim is that I do more and more awareness sessions on how the brain can be kept fit in multiple ways, especially how games can be incorporated. So I want to become one, expert that goes really deep down into the mental wellness and the brain fitness space, giving in certain science-backed researches and methods that people can use on a daily life. And third thing is, of course, the expansion of team, the expansion of bringing in new technology. That's where again I see Khel Khel Mein growing in the next 5 years.
Beautiful, beautiful, Mithal. So now let's go to the next round and understand Mithal as a person. So tell us about your family and your formative years.
So overall, I've been in a very happy-go-lucky family and a very liberal parents where, because I remember from the college days, whenever I wanted to attend any expos, any fairs, any exhibitions, my parents always allowed me. And also as a child, I never remember my mom or dad sitting with me and making me do my homework. So I was a very sincere child when it was in school. But something that nobody will believe or agree is I was very shy, introvert, and timid in the school years. That, I've not been for years, but yes, in the school days, I used to be very, very shy.
So who's your biggest cheerleader in life and how do they motivate you to push boundaries?
Of course, currently, my biggest cheerleader is my husband. And there have been times, especially after getting well paid jobs and, running these classes that didn't pay enough. There have been times when I decided that nahi karna hai, let me drop and let me take a job. I think I'm better off doing a job. But he's the one who believed in this concept and who said, no, what you're doing is beautiful. It's changing lives. It is impacting people. Just stick to it. There will be a day where everything will be recovered. Don't think of doing a job. Don't do anything. Just continue what you're doing. So he was always there to, I think he had more conviction in my work some years back than I had, and he kept me on to this. And even today, I think he's the heart of Khel Khel Mein. If I say I'm the head of it, and the hands are, of course, my team, my husband is the heart of Khel Khel Mein. Because the way he talks about my concept to so many people, he's constantly cheering, he's constantly giving me feedback, and he is always there at the back, at my back, uh, motivating me that what you're doing is wonderful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, so, Mithal, how do you use games in your own household?
Okay, so to be frank, I think it is again my husband who uses games more frequently because
Mhm.
for me, my favorite family time is more with traveling. I love traveling with my family. But yeah, whenever we have little free time, like even yesterday when it was Sunday and evening, we didn't have anything. He's like, let's call our friends and play board games. He is a big lover of board games, and throughout the lockdown, he has ensured that all the youth of my building, everyone from the age 14 to 25, used to be at my house every single day, even when there was this, lockdown and we were not supposed to socialize, but because of 500 games at home, he was the one who every day used to invite, let come, let's play, let's play. So, and games have created a big change in our family relations, in our relations with the with the friends, and it has brought in changes in others' lives as well, because we've created this addiction in people of playing board games.
Wow, that's beautiful. Okay. You led me to my next question. So, what's the most adventurous trip you have ever taken?
Okay. So I love traveling, and I've traveled in multiple ways with family, with my son, because we were unschooling him. We did multiple trips, like, duo, me and my son. But I think the most adventurous for me was my solo trip. I think at my age 44, that was my first ever complete solo trip where nobody's along. And this was adventurous because all I did was book the Tatkal ticket to Chandigarh and I decided to go to Himachal, and there was no plans from booking hotels to booking cabs to anything. So it was like I was trying to book a cab to Shimla, and that fellow was taking too much time, and I reached the bus stand, and I just suddenly decided, let me take the bus. So I constantly challenged myself, and it led me to a lot of fears also, because then it was like, oh, I'm going to reach Shimla at 9 p.m. when it'll be dark. I've not booked any hotel. And all the fears also started setting in. But it was just like, even the return ticket was not booked. It was just like, take the day as it comes. And I think that led me to amazing reflections. I had just constantly, every fear that I faced, every discomfort that I faced, I was making notes in my mobile. So I feel you have to push yourself out of the comfort when new learnings have to happen, when some innovations have to happen. uh, Getting out of the comfort gets very important, and this journey has helped me a lot.
Wow. Yes. Okay. So, Mithil, what role does music, art, or any other creative outlet play in your personal and professional life?
So, personal life, of course, art and music has been a very important part of me. Even before I started with game therapy or all my jobs, I used to actually make art and craft things. My Rakis were sold to the best stores across Mumbai, including Premsons, Amarsons, everything. I used to make multiple things. So always I've been artistic in some way, but music definitely is a part of my daily life. I have to unwind through music, and even when I am writing my book, whenever I've written my book in the most peaceful time, there is a background music constantly on. So for me, that's a stimulation for me. But also, when I talk of the professional life, yes, art does inspire me in multiple ways, including ancient art, including artistic work done, or even ancient heritage for that matter. So, whenever I visit places, whenever I see these pieces of art, it always kind of tries, I try to connect things to my gaming journey. I try to connect that how I can use this part into my game, how I can convert these things, or how I can convert my game into this kind of a formation. So that is constantly on my mind.
Yeah, beautiful. So, Mithil, what's the most memorable game you have played as a child?
So as a kid, I hardly played games. I don't remember playing board games at all during my childhood, but puzzles were always fun for me. I used to enjoy these DIY games, and the most memorable was making a aeroplane, because back then in 1980s, I think these kind of things were very less available in the market. And I remember my parents had brought me something where I could make a proper 3D aeroplane with this DIY game that had come in. So that has been the most memorable one for me. But besides that, puzzles is something that always inspired me, even in the childhood.
Wow, beautiful. Okay. So, Mithil, what's a quirky or unexpected hobby you enjoy that not many people know about?
Okay, so a hobby that not many people know about is making cards, or doing some kind of paper art. That's something I truly love doing. So the stationery, or the colored pens, the colored papers, and cutting things out of it and all that, is something I love doing, and I don't do it very frequently these days. So majority people will not be aware of it. And the second thing that I really enjoy doing is just walking on the sand at a beach during sunset.
Wow. So, Mithil, who has inspired you from the world of experiential learning, who are from India or internationally, who are using the power of games?
Uh, There have been multiple people. Of course, when I did my diploma in experiential education, my facilitator, Vishwas Parchure, who's from Pune, he's been one inspiration. I attended a session by Chris Cavert, who is a part of the International Experiential Education Board. And I quite enjoyed his ways of bringing in very simple things like cups, paper cups or cards, and how, these things can be modified to bring in a lot of different results. So of course, I have a few of his books that I keep referring to. And also in, when it comes to the unschooler family, or the unschooler community by itself, there is Manish Jain from Udaipur, who's also the part of the Swaraj University. I always get inspired by him because he's the one who always talks of walking the unconventional steps, or giving a complete free hand to experiencing things. Because the moment a format comes in, it's no more an experience, it's more like a set experience. But the level to which he can go unconventional, that is an inspiration to me.
Wow. Okay, my last two questions. Uh, since this is an episode of Sri Shakti, what does Sri Shakti mean to you?
uh, my parameters for Sri Shakti have kept changing. First and foremost was being able to work outside, because I come in from a Kutchi Gujarati community where, it's not something very frequent that women used to go out. Even at the time I got married, my first thing was I will get married only in a house that allows me to work. But despite of that, I often feel that, even when families allow, especially in our communities, they allow you to work, there are still a lot of uh, hidden challenges. So despite of all the allowances, people don't accept things very easily. So that was one thing that I always felt that I have tried fighting against, the way I have lived in my family with complete freedom. So there have been challenges where people will have put in questions that why do you want to do this? Why not? Why give so much time when you can be happy with this? Why go ahead and kind of things. I have constantly kept empowering myself despite the various challenges living in a joint family. And when I think when I passed through that entire journey, that's where I felt empowered. I felt that, okay, this is something, the endurance, the persistence is something as a woman probably that helped me. Also, I always say this, that when it is a man who has to go out, it's just that, he'll wake up, he can take a bath, and he can just move out. But when a woman has to go, it is like you wake up, you cook for the family, you prepare things, you do multiple things, you sort out the household things and everything, and then you go out. So there is a certain journey that you go through before you are actually out into the work. So these are the challenges. Again, I think these are more community based, but these are the challenges that you overpower. And second thing is, of course, uh, I mean, I feel this is something for the newer generation, that when I talk to my son, I never tell him, or the very distinguish between a man and woman is something that I'm trying to avoid. So I don't tell him, when I make him cook or when I make him do household things, I don't put in these stereotype roles, that this is something a boy needs to do and this is something a girl needs to do. So when we talk of Stree Shakti in the current world, I think the whole idea of removing that stereotyping, that this is a girl's role and this is a boy's role, is something that needs to be overcome completely.
Beautiful. For my last question, which will be a googly one, describe Mithal in one line.
Okay, so if it is one line, I am a happy-go-lucky, talkative, and yet a very deep and spiritual person.
Beautiful. So let's have some fun. The rapid fire round. Board games or
Okay,
video games?
board games.
Mountains or beaches?
Very confusing. I love both.
Okay, it's all right.
It's
Morning
on the
person or
mood,
night?
actually.
Sorry?
It's on the mood. There are
Uh,
times I love going to the mountains, and there are times I love going to the beaches.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning person.
Most inspiring book you have read recently?
Mm, I think recently, see, my all-time favorite is Alchemist.
Wow.
I mean, I love reading it again and again.
Go to comfort food.
Pani Puri,
Your favorite color?
white,
Favorite kachi food?
dabeli,
Strategy games or puzzles?
puzzles,
The one word your friends would use to describe you?
talkative,
Coffee or chai?
coffee.
Let's read.
Yes.
Best piece of advice received?
Sorry?
Best piece of advice received?
Um, work in silence,
Favorite game to play with friends?
splendor.
Wow. So you did well, and here's your gift, which will be autographed and sent to you. So,
Thank you
friends,
so
it was
much.
a lovely conversation having with Mital Salia. Uh, she's using the power of games for mental wellness, brain fitness, and has come up with a new dimension, game therapist. Uh, and she's an author and an unschooler mom. So these, what a coffee conversation brings about with a coffee speaker. You want to learn about how games now being used in the corporate world also for mental wellness and so many things. So this is the episode where you can understand how the process works through Mital Salia. There are over 350 plus episodes of the Coffee Corner Show, which has inspiring stories of each coffee speaker and their journey, and they're contributing how playing multiple roles. And if you want to be featured like Mital Salia, visit our website, theemergingindiaforum.com, or our social media handles. Our team will connect with you and invite you to be featured on the Coffee Corner Show with coffee, having coffee conversations. So take care.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me over. It was a lovely conversation.